Hello everyone, Draco Magnius here once again for another lesson in Wizardry. And today we will be going over the spells we got in Hamlin, past and present, Autumnia and Hamlin, means for transportation in this world, and the story of Drippy's past. Without further ado, let's jump into our magic. We are starting, of course, with the Arrow of Light. Pierce your enemies with an arrow of radiant golden light. This spell, which produces gleaming arrows that soar through the air, is known for being especially effective against nightmares. Additionally, it is claimed that some ancient sages would fire such arrows into the night sky as means for communicating with distant companions. Further proof that adaptability is the hallmark of a great wizard. But without further ado, I will teach you how to do the rune for this invaluable spell. Alright, so to draw Arrow of Light, you're going to draw basically a bow, and then strike through for the arrow. I'll do that a little slower, of course. So, yeah, I'd say right around here. And then you draw the bow, like right here, the arrow. Once more, bow, arrow, and now quickly. Whoops. Fumble there. Don't want to do that. I want to do that. That. Alright. And with that, we move on to the second spell of the day. Okay, and the next two spells we'll be covering are actually right next to each other, but we're starting, of course, with Breach Time. Pick a point in time and leap across the continuum. Though fraught with danger, this is the only method by which wizards may take a leap through time to a moment of their choice. This spell is overwhelmingly powerful, and can only be used once in a wizard's lifetime. Once time has been breached, one cannot go back. Of all the spells available to a wizard, the casting of this one in particular requires careful consideration. Alright. So I'm going to show you all how to draw this rune, but once again, it cannot be stated enough. Since this is a spell that you can only cast once in your lifetime, use it with caution if you have to use it at all. Alright, now let's show you how to draw. Okay, so when you're drawing this particular rune, actually let's get that on the screen. There we go. Alright, now as I was saying, when you're drawing this rune, you're basically drawing two different arrows, with one intersecting the main line. So I'll show that again. Draw down again, but at an angle, up, across, and then the second line, near the end, is the other arrow. Now, quickly. Alright, now we move on to spell number 3. And next, of course, is Ward. Raise a magical barrier that deflects magical attacks. Ward is a simple spell, yet the barrier it produces is very effective at blocking magical attacks. If attack is the best form of defense, then perhaps the opposite is also true. The moment after an enemy attack has been successfully deflected is often the best time to launch a devastating counter. And now I will show you how to cast this simple yet valuable spell. Alright, now with this one, you're basically drawing a little mountain with a rainbow above it. So once more, little mountain, rainbow, and quickly. Alright, with that we move on to spell number 4. I will see you all in just a moment. Alright, and the next spell we're covering is Fuse, which as you can see is a bit grayed out, which means, well, not grayed out, but faded, which means it's not a spell we're going to be using at any point in the game. Produce wondrous new items that are greater than the sum of their parts. While wizards can rely on their cauldron for most necessary provisions, there are some items that even alchemy cannot produce. Should you find yourself in need of one, it is worth giving this spell a try. No item is beyond the reach of a master of fusion. Now you might be wondering, well, this text seems to tell us, Draco, that you can use Fuse and make better items than you can with alchemy. If you want my honest opinion of this, breaking character for a little bit for this one, if you want my honest opinion of this particular spell, I think this was an idea that they came up with. As a game designer, it's something that's like, hey, maybe we could make spells a spell that are like very specific, that, you know, without alchemy you can make these and they'll be like super duper rare ones. But then they realized, well, what's the point? Why have something exclusive to alchemy? What is the point of making alchemy if you could just make the same items using fusion spell? And the interface with alchemy was probably already made, so they figured they would cut the need for fusion as actually using it as a spell, and they decided to just make alchemy your fusing thing, but keep it in as a spell you can use, just like, hey, here's a little lore bit for you. But without further ado, I will now show you how to draw this rune. Alright, now, when we draw a fuse, you're basically drawing 2Ds in 2 different ways. Which way is correct is up to you, but I find that this way, we draw a D upways, the correct way, whatever, however you want to say it, and then we draw one upside down. And now quickly. Actually, that was a bit off, I feel. Hang on, I'm going to actually look at the screen now, just to make sure it looks correct. Okay, so the D, then the D intersecting. Yeah, that looks more right. The 2 Ds need to be the correct size and shape, equal of each other, but intersecting. Alright. With that all said and done, we move on to spell number 5. Alright, next on our list is Insight. Reveal the hopes and dreams invested in an object. Now I want to play Hopes and Dreams from Undertale. Anyway, objects that have been in a person's possession for a long time are said to be imbued with their owner's thoughts and ideas. Such objects retain these thoughts even after the owner's death, revealing them only to wizards who use this spell. Be aware that people are wont to entrust their most personal secrets to their possessions, meaning the information you glean should not be treated lightly. Alright, but with that, I'm going to show you how to draw this rune so you too can see the hopes and dreams of your items around your home, or other people's home, depending on how you want to use it. Alright, now to get insight from objects, what we do is we draw a little hill, well, mountain, and then we draw, I guess, half a step through the mountain at a little bit. So I'll draw that again. Your mountain and your stair. And now quickly. Alright, now we're on spell 6. Almost done with the spells for today. I'll see you all in just a moment. Okay, and here we have travel. Traverse the continents and oceans in the blink of an eye. The key to instantaneous transportation is the ability to imagine yourself at your destination. It is not enough merely to picture the scenery. All the senses must be engaged. You have to focus until you can hear the sounds, smell the aromas, taste the air of the place in question. Naturally, this makes it impossible for a wizard to use this spell to travel to a location they have never visited. So, let's say you want to travel to Alma Moon. Well, you'll have to smell the babanas in the air and the milk fountains, hear the people bustling by, and you know, stuff like that. But without further ado, I will teach you how to draw this rune. Alright, now for this particular rune, let's make sure I'm correctly placed. There we are. Now, this one, we have a lot of mountainous runes today. But once you draw your mountains, you strike through them. So, I'll do that a little slower, because that was a pretty fast going through. Alright, so again, draw your mountains, and straight through. Actually, now that I look at that, that was a little high for what I was doing. Start down here, up, straight through. Now we do it quickly. Alright, and now we move on to our final magic rune of the day. And the final spell of the day is the invaluable spell of Chart Chest. Uncover troves of hidden treasure. Use this spell to reveal the locations of nearby treasure chests, the contents of which may prove useful during your wizardly education. There are certain provisions that can only be found in these chests, and coming across a real rarity is by no means unheard of. Now I will show you this rune so you too may chart treasure chests around your current location. I'll be back in just a moment. Alright, now to start off this rune, we're going to... how about... yeah, there should be good. We're going to draw an M. And then, like roughly around... yeah, let's say there. You're going to draw a bit of an angular question mark through the center of the M. Now I'll draw that again, so you can see it, just to be sure, a little slower. And now quickly. Alright! And with that, we're all done with magic for the day. We'll be covering the modes of transportation in the world we currently find ourselves in. I will be back in just a moment. Teaching for Aspiring Wizards number 7. Means of Transportation, Part 2. Ships. Non-wizards rely upon ships to carry them across the world's oceans. Indeed, many dream of owning their own vessel, imagining the freedom this would offer them. Certain ships are equipped with grand mechanical wheels, one on each side, which enhance maneuverability and allow docking in narrow harbors. Next we have flying boats, mainly used by the fishermen of Castaway Cove. Flying boats have 2 wide wings that allow them to skip along the surface of the water, like flying fish. The sight of 2 flying boats skipping along each other, trailing the net between them, is truly something to behold. And the last thing here, which is the whole reason why we're covering it now, the Porco Grosso. The latest rumors emanating from the factories of Hamlin surround a battle tank known as the Porco Grosso. This leaked image depicting the tank's designers, the Porco twins, standing next to their creation, is the only evidence of its existence. Porco Grossos believed to be capable of scaling vertical walls and attacking an entire battalion of enemy troops with a single volley. Well, we know all too well about that, don't we? We saw it firsthand. Let's take a closer look, though, at the picture. There they are. Nice and clear. Alright, with that all said and done, why don't we move on to what Autumnia and Hamlin have to offer. Quick note before I begin reading this is actually future Draco. I forgot to include this in my lesson plan, so it wasn't in the original lesson, so I'm retconning this and adding it in. But without further ado, let's get started on this. Legendary Beasts number 12. Lights that glow in the darkest night. What was it that was seen in the mirror? Rumors are circulating in Autumnia about a priest who disappeared on an island to the north of the continent. He was last seen on the evening of the new moon, standing in front of a mirror with a candle in his hand. Those who saw him that night claim that though he only held one candle, countless flames were reflected in the mirror, as well as a set of eyes and a grinning mouth. Spooky. Alright. Clearly it's talking about Candle Abracadabra, or whatever the heck the thing's name was. I remember it was long and it involved candles and abracadabra. But anyway, without further ado, I take it back to my past self to inform you about Autumnia and Hamlin. See you in just a moment. Okay, so we have a lot to cover about Autumnia and Hamlin, so let's just dive right on in. Autumnia. Located east of the Summerlands, Autumnia's harsh terrain is broadly divided between Billy Goat's Bluff in the north and the Pig Iron Plains in the south. Autumnia was once home to several rival kingdoms, but of them, only the southern state of Hamlin could claim to be more than a shadow of its former self. And let's take a quick look at the area down here. Creepy. Now, I am curious about the Billy Goat's Bluff it's mentioning, but we'll look at that at a later point. Anyway, the first thing that's on here, at least I'm pretty sure, it's been a while since I've had to read the text there. Let's see, 1. Yep. I am opening my Physical Wizard's Companion, so I have the Nausicaan script available. Great. Nevermore, a recently renamed castle. Once the royal palace of a now devastated kingdom. And let's take a quick look at that there. Interesting. Alright. And the next one is the Miasma Marshes. A deeply unsettling place, redolent of human tragedy. The regrets of the dead are said to haunt the marshes still. Bleak. Actually, if you look close, the Miasma Marshes, with the way the trees are placed, looks like a face wailing. There's some creepy looking trees with eyes down there. Anyway, number 3 is Perdita, a small and relatively unknown village where fables and rumors about the savior are rife. And there's Perdita. Huh. So all the areas we've covered so far are areas we have no way of getting to. Next, we have the Tombstone Trail. An area we're finally familiar with. A dark and eerie valley, filled with tombs said to belong to ancient priests. The Tombstone Trail is the only path between the northern and southern parts of Autumnia. Let's get a good look. That's another thing that looks like a wailing face on there. Pleasant. Anywho, now that we've covered Tombstone Trail, I believe all that's left is Hamlin. Hamlin is an ancient imperial city that has been a cradle of scientific and magical research for generations. It is located in the heart of the Pig Iron Plains in the southern part of Autumnia. There it is in its piggy glory. Now I am curious if I go in... perfect! I don't have to flip the page, right? Yep, that's all in that page. Which makes what I just did kind of pointless. Oh well, anyway, Hamlin! Seat of scientific and magical learning. Hamlin is the largest city in Autumnia. I mean, one of the only cities in Autumnia, but that's neither here nor there. And the capital of what is often called the Pig Iron Empire. It is a popular destination for the less magically minded, as its modern facilities make it an easy place for non-wizards to live. The city is continuously being improved, with the latest development being a system of tracks that allow whole buildings to be moved around via the power of steam. The main complaint voiced by visitors to Hamlin is that all the industry and machinery produces a thick smog that sits heavily in the lungs. Essential info for you to know. City, Hamlin. Climate, breezy and chilly, being situated on a high plateau. The local delicacies are black truffles. Character, inquisitive and energetic, but rather cold and indifferent at first. The festivals here is just the royal procession, and the local sport is competitive truffling. My, that sounds interesting. Perhaps we'll learn of that. But first off, the Common March of Progress. The citizens of Hamlin are united in both their inquisitive natures and their desire to support and protect their empire. As a result, large-scale magi scientific military products are quite normal. Such products are always kept top secret, of course, but rumors suggest that Hamlin's latest development, the Porco Grosso tank, is several leagues ahead of any weapon in the other nations' respective arsenals. Local delicacies are the aforementioned black truffles. This extremely rare variety of edible fungus has a wonderful aroma, and is said to be served to the Emperor as an accompaniment to every meal. And the last thing we have to cover on here. Hamlin at its best, the royal procession. This procession is a traditional event that sees the Emperor make his way through the streets of Hamlin. It is also an opportunity for the Empire to show off its very latest technological advances. The symbols of Hamlin, the pig. Surprising as it may seem to those who visited the modern-day Hamlin, the city was once known for large-scale pig rearing. Indeed, pigs could be credited for Hamlin's present prosperity, having been responsible for rooting out the black truffles which account for the Empire's wealth. Interestingly, Hamlin pig is now a term of abuse applied to those who fixate upon work to detriment of their appearance. Scant reward for all the pig's labors. Alright, with all that said and done, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the last segment of our lesson. A story about Drippy's past. I will see you all in just a moment. The third tale, the fairy who wouldn't stop crying. The Teary Fairy. Sit tight, boys and girls, I've got a story to tell you. A fairy tale, if you like. Fairies like me used to be 10 a penny, see? But you'd be hard-pressed to find one these days. Always on the move we are. Anyway, this story's about a very special fairy. And while it happened a long, long time ago, the fairy's still going strong today. Or so I hope, anyway. Right then, let's get cracking in it. This story's about a little fairy who wouldn't stop crying, sobbing. He was day and night. Now us fairies are hell of a impressionable, especially when we're little. We learn all sorts of tiny tricks from other fairies, but we can pick up bad habits just as easy. I don't know whose miserable mug this poor dab saw when he first popped out into the world, but it must have been proper tragic, cause the first thing he ever did in his life was cry, and then he kept on crying. Now, it's not like this fairy wanted to be spouting tears all the time, he just couldn't help himself. Every time it got dark, he'd well up, like blinking clockwork he was. What's more, young fairies can be hell of a cruel, and this little cry fairy got ribbed something terrible. All of which just made him want to cry even more, of course. The Puddle of Tears. One day, a traveling wizard happened to spot this fairy standing next to Puddle of Tears. He was proper knackered, this wizard, and hell of a thirsty. So what he did was, he took a drink from the puddle in it. There's lovely, he thought, and felt 10 times better straight away. Then off he went with a spring in his step, and got on with his wizardly work. A bit later, when everything was done, he decided to go back and thank the fairy, for the tears he drank, I mean. But when he came back, the puddle was even bigger than before. "Oh, fairy," he said in his grand old voice, "why do you cry so much? I've been gone 3 days, and still you weep." Said the fairy. "Scared I am, like. Scared of the dark, and I don't know what to do about it." After a few more sobs, he went on, "And everyone makes fun of me. Good for nothing I am. Life is rubbish." And with that, he went back to sobbing. "I see," said the wise old wizard, stroking his big white beard. "Perhaps a lantern is what you need." So he whips out this tiny lantern out of his cloak and plonks it on the end of the fairy's nose, right? Now, the light from the lantern made the fairy blink like mad, but it didn't half cheer him up, and sure enough, he stopped crying. Felt like he'd been born again, he did. "You see, little fairy," said the wizard, "you shall never be in the dark again, no matter where you go." I'm not scared anymore," the fairy gasped, cracking the first smile in his whole entire life. "And you're no longer good for nothing either," laughed the wizard. "That smile of yours will bring comfort to a great many people. Come with me, and I shall show you." So the wizard packed up his daps in a little bag and went off with the wizard. They had some pretty hair-raising adventures in all, but the fairy never once got scared. He had the lantern at the end of his nose, see? and even after he parted ways with the kindly wizard, he never cried again, and the light on his nose is still shining to this day. Have a look around you like. He might be right nearby. Well, what do you say? Proper tidy tale, wasn't it? I bet you got a tear in your eye now. Alright, so, little commentary on that. Drippy really has grown since, he was first born, huh? You got to learn a little about his past. Maybe you shouldn't have made the crack about crying for 3 days to Oliver, considering he did too. But anyway, with that, we end our lessons for today here. I'll see you all in the next episode. Study hard.